If you're a parent, either you or your wife, that deals with power struggles with your kids, you feel like you're going to pull your hair out, you lose your patience, you get so angry and you have no idea what to do. Number one, you're in good company, because that's the whole reason I actually started this podcast 11 years ago, because I had that same problem too. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I'm Larry Hagner. Today's guest is Jon Fogel. And yes, I know you're thinking super bad, but don't worry, you're not alone. We get that out of the way really, really quick. So what we talk about today, it matters. It matters big time, and today it is gold. In this episode, we're going to talk really, really deeply and psychologically about emotional regulation, how to help your kids actually name what they're feeling, and some simple games and tools that you can start using before things go sideways. We also dig into his two latest books, which is one is a kid's book. It's actually written for kids so they can understand situations and their emotions, and it's called Set My Feelings Free. He's also the best-selling author of a book that he wrote not too terribly long ago called Punishment-Free Parenting. Became a bestseller on Amazon. You guys are going to hear the real story, and please, I know you're probably looking at the thumbnail being like, what is this kid going to teach me about parenting? And the answer to that is probably a whole lot, because I've been a parent for 2 decades, and I know I learned a ton from Jon today. Gentlemen, let's get into it. Enjoy. Fogel. How many times you heard that?
Oh, too many. Too many. Never gets old.
Dude, I was actually just talking about the movie Superbad with an old, of all people, this is going to sound kind of crazy. I just caught up 2 weeks ago with an old boss of mine that I worked with. I worked for him back in 2007 in med device, and he was a brand new boss. And at the time he was probably 30. So he was like super young boss, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Well, wait, let me think. Yeah, that's about right. We were all like the same age. We had this dude was my boss, and he managed me and like 4 other guys, and we were all friends and that kind of thing. So like when the movie Superbad came out, which by the way, I didn't even know what Superbad was, because it, like, the movie when we saw it had just come out, and it was me, this boss, and like 3 of us guys that worked for him. And so we all got to dinner when you're out of town, and he's like, hey, I got an idea for tonight. This is the boss. And I'm like, yeah, sure. What's the idea? And he's like, we should go see Superbad. And I was like, what's Superbad? He's like, oh my God, it's a new movie, man. It just came out like last week. It's hilarious. It looks hilarious. We got to go see it. And I'm like,
And he's
okay, yeah, right. I know he hadn't seen it yet. And so I was like, we were all like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. So we went and saw that movie, and I literally told him, I was like, dude, you literally won like the coolest boss award of like the year that year, because we like thought you were the coolest dude ever, that our boss would take us to go see Superbad and see Fogel in action. And here he is.
I mean, yeah. I'm kind of like Fogel in some ways, but in other ways not. Yeah, I have seen that movie. I am one of the people, like, I don't tend to like raunchy comedies like that much. Like, that's not like my style of humor. But there's something about that movie that I just die every time I watch that movie. Like, I'm crying. That movie and Napoleon Dynamite, I'm just crying laughing when I watch those movies. And that's just not, like, I don't know, maybe it's like a developmental thing. Like, when I saw that movie, I was at the right stage of development for that movie to just absolutely like get me. I don't know. Maybe it's just that the movies are worse now. But like, when a raunchy comedy comes out these days, I watch it and I'm like, it's just not that funny. But man, Superbad, you will not catch me like with like tears streaming down my face watching Superbad every time.
I know, man. It's just such a cult classic movie. And but yeah, so obviously enough jokes on your name, but man, so the last time I talked to you, you were 3 kids deep and not 4. It was 2 years ago. You were working on a book that wasn't out yet. Now it is. And you know, just to add to a little bit more responsibility and busyness, you are now pursuing a PhD.
Yeah, so I still have my same job. I don't just do whole parent stuff and write books. I'm also the solo pastor of a church. And so I'm a solo pastor of a church. And then all of my education up to this point, formal education, has been in ministry related stuff. But in the process of that, I did take some classes in counseling, and I was like, I really want to know the developmental side. So like I've read so many of the books already. I'm still at the early stages, so I'm still learning things that I already know. But yeah, I'm getting a PhD in developmental psychology now. So the idea being that we can, just fix all the world's problems with our kids. And kids, like, it's never been harder to raise kids. Like, we need more people talking about this and doing this, because whether you're in the school system, whether you're just talking to people on the street, like, man, it's never been harder to raise kids, and especially boys. And so we need a lot more men who are doing this work too, as role models, but also just like, I understand what it is to be a teenage boy. I did actually go through that myself. And so I feel like so much of the parenting space, other than you and me and a handful of others, is just a lot of women. And I value their work, and I think I've learned more from women than probably from men in the parenting world. But we need more men who are like willing to be amazing dads.
We do. I had a good friend of mine back in 2016, because I started Dad Edge, back in, I guess officially, unofficially in 2012. And then, started officially back in like 2015 with the podcast. And it was a friend of mine he was actually in the nonprofit space, and became a dad, and then suddenly launched into the dad space. I'll never forget. He's like, "Hey man, like, I hope this doesn't really like affect our friendship." And I was like, "Are you joking?" I was like, "Dude, we need 100,000 of us. We don't need 2 of us. We need like 100,000 dudes talking about this is what we need."
Yeah.
So I agree with you, man. I agree with you.
It's just like, it's such a empty group of men so often. Like there's just, it's like the world sets up men to kind of go down a certain path with fatherhood, and it's not a rewarding thing. But I think that in my experience, I've seen so many people just be transformed by the stuff that I learn and then pass on. And it's like, man, I had to go get the PhD, because I was like, if there's more to learn out there about this, like, I want to know it.
When are you going to be done? When are you actually going to be Dr. Fogel?
Doctor. I'll be the second Dr. Fogel. My mom was Dr. Fogel first. And then my sister-in-law is also a medical doctor, but she didn't take my brother's last name. Yeah, so officially I will be done, I think, in like 3 years at this point. I have like 3 more years. It's usually like a 5-year process. So I'm into it. I'm not super deep into it yet. I have not started like writing my dissertation yet, which is like the brutal part. But someday I'll be able to speak on whatever that turns out to be.
So I guess at this point, I mean, like, you and I really seem to touch base and do interviews like when there's a life change. You didn't have a book, and you didn't have a 4th kid. Now you got a 4th kid and a book, and now we're talking again. Next time we talk, you'll be Dr. Fogel, maybe. So
yeah, maybe. I hope not, because honestly, when I get, it's crazy. I do so many different interviews and podcast episodes, and I obviously like put out a podcast, and what people, the number of people who have come to me and been like, "Wait, you were on the Dad Edge, weren't you?" Like, it's like, so the stuff had no clue that when we were doing that first interview, that was going to become like my calling card in certain circles. That like, "Oh, that episode, you were talking about this on Dad Edge," and I have to like rack my brain and be like, "Wait, what did I say 2 years ago?" And it's all still valid, but it was a great experience for me. I loved it, man. We got to do it. We got to do it more often.
You know what I really love to do? And I know I'm asking you this like literally right on the air. So like, I'm really putting you on the spot, and I apologize, but I'm sorry, not sorry, but I think I know what you're going to say anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know what I think I'd love to schedule you for is a Q&A in the Alliance.
Yeah.
So we run, we've got the community, and it just so happens actually that our entire March agenda is geared towards calm parenting and patient parenting.
Yeah.
Right. So it'd be actually great to get you this month if you want.
Yeah. No, I'll do it. Absolutely.
Great.
As long as the timing works out, for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do group coaching. So I have a membership as well that's for just kind of parents, and it's a global thing. Like we have people from Australia and
Yeah.
everywhere. And I do a monthly, what I call group coaching, which is it's just Q&A. It's just ask me anything about parenting. And we have like potty training questions all the way up to like, I found my kid like looking at this on the internet. What do I do? And so like literally we kind of go through all the gambit of that. And my biggest flex is that I have a person inside the membership, a couple. I won't name them, but there's a couple inside the membership that just joined not too long ago, and they live in Australia. And right now, the way that group coaching is lining up is it's at like 10 Central, which means that these people set an alarm and get up at 2 a.m. to come and like sit on this hour-long parenting call in their living room. And I'm like, man, they are so cool. I just don't, with such a little kids, like I don't know that I have the ability to wake up at 2 a.m. I mean, I'm already up at 2 a.m., but I don't know if I want to be on a call. But I'm just like, it really is such a positive benefit, and so few people take advantage of it. If you're listening to this and you're part of the Alliance and you're not going to the Q&A, like I've listened to the Q&A because you post that occasionally on the podcast, right?
Yeah. I
It's
usually do. I usually do. I obviously get permission from everybody because some of the questions are personal and some of
yeah,
the questions we even completely omit because they're too personal. But like
sure.
everybody knows when we do Q&As, like we'll decide if everybody's on board. We'll not so. But here's something really interesting that you said. Um, it is really crazy, man. Like how much we have in common. Like, because you and I were jamming for like 20 minutes before we hit record and finding how much we have in common in the writing space. But like, I too, and the data, and this, I just want to give a shout out to the guys in the Alliance from Australia because we like have an entire chapter of those guys. And
So cool.
like, I run a call at 8:45 a.m. Central, and it's like 1:45 a.m. for one of the members. He's also one of my leaders, though. He is a savage. Like,
Yeah,
we call him the cyborg. Like he's not
I
even
love it.
human. He just executes, and he'll show
Crazy.
up
Yeah.
on those calls. I'm like, dude, why? Like he's like, what else am I gonna do, mate? Sleep? I don't want to sleep. I want to learn. Like, I'm just like God.
I don't
Like,
people want to learn. I
I
love
want to sleep. I want to learn. I'm like, damn. Like that's all.
that.
But anyway, hey, let's give the guys in the audience just a little bit of an update. We got 4 kids. You guys been married, so
Yes. Yeah.
tell us about your family.
So been married for 11 years to my wife. Never better. Honestly, like been such a whirlwind, but she as we're trying to figure out how to like work together, like literally work occupationally together with this whole parent thing. She's doing a lot of that stuff. And but the relationship has really never been stronger, which is so cool. And then I have 4 kids. I have 3 boys. I started with 3 boys just like you, but for my 4th, I didn't know what I was having until I delivered that baby myself
Wait, what?
in the
No, you
hospital.
didn't.
Yes, yeah,
No, you did
100%.
not.
100%. Okay,
What?
here's the story. Here's the story. So
You're
like,
not a doctor yet.
I'm not a doctor. It's fine. It's like, here's the story. First kid, I was like in the hospital, like with my wife. I was just like cheerleader, rah, rah, rah. That's all my whole job, right? Second kid is born 2020, May 2020. Anybody know what's going on in May 2020? You guys
Not
remember?
good.
So they were taking babies away from their parents in the hospital if their parents had a fever, which a lot of people just get fevers when they're giving birth because like their bodies like go. So
It's kind of a big dang, big
it's
deal.
a
Yeah.
huge problem. And it's and again, I think they were doing their best. Like I think it's May, right? Like this thing is 2 months old. We don't know anything about COVID at this point. Like they're just erring on the side of caution. And my wife at that point was a nurse. So she's working in the ER, like gowned up, 2 masks, full body hazmat suit, like doing chest compressions and 8 months pregnant. Like it was a nightmare. She was like, I don't want to be anywhere around a hospital. So we had the second one at home. And it was like a midwife came in and did that. And then the third one came along and it was kind of like, well, we did this last time. Why wouldn't we just do this again? There are a lot of benefits. Like number one, you're not in the hospital, which is like you get to sleep in your own bed, which is great. But the third one, it was more traumatic. It was like kind of a rough birth. And so she was like, I'm going back to the hospital, and I'm going like, she had always done like the natural childbirth thing. She was like, I'm doing the epidural. I'm doing like the Pitocin. Like, I'm just gonna like, give me all the drugs. Just the third one was like traumatic. I don't want to, and the second one was traumatic too in its own way. So she was just like, I don't want to even just, I just want to do it. So I almost missed the birth of my fourth child because I was getting Jimmy Johns. She had not even had it, her water broke, but she had not had any contractions. So they're like, we're going to give you the epidural and then we're going to start you on Pitocin. And my wife's like, hey, go check on my parents. They're with the kids. Go check on the other kids and grab lunch and come back. And I swear that she said grab lunch and come back. But she doesn't remember saying grab lunch and come back. She just remembers saying come back. So I go home, drive 40 minutes home, check on the kids, drive 40 minutes back to the hospital because she wanted to have this hospital that she really liked, that she'd worked at previously when we lived somewhere else. So I drive 40 minutes back to the hospital, but I stop at Jimmy John's on the way. And I pull into the parking lot, and she had texted me like, are you on your way yet? I was like, oh yeah, 10 minutes away. She texted me 5 minutes ago. How close are you? I was like, 5 minutes. She called me when I pull into the parking lot and goes, hey, so I think you need to come upstairs right now. And I was like, okay. So I go running up the stairs. She had gone from not having any contractions to this baby is coming out in the next 30 seconds to a minute. Like in less than 40 minutes. In the time that I like was driving back. Like she had not even started Pitocin when I left. So she had that baby so fast, but the midwife is there and she's this old school grizzled midwife. So we didn't have any doctors though for any of our kids. There was just midwives in the hospital, midwives in our house. And she's this old school grizzled midwife. And she's just,
what's a grizzle? What's a grizzle?
She's just like seen it all. She's like, I'm retiring in 2 weeks. Like literally retiring in 2 weeks. I'm retiring in 2 weeks. I'm done with this. I love it. She's already chewed out the nurses because they weren't like checking my wife fast enough. They didn't know this was about to happen. She's already chewed out. And she's like, you delivered 2 babies at home, right? And I was like, well,
it's not the time to have this conversation.
A midwife did, like in a pool. And she's just like, come here, put your hand here. And I was like, do you do what? What do you want me to do? She's like, come here. And I went in obedience mode. Like, as a medical professional, like I thought she needed help. I thought she needed like, like somebody's like, hold right. Her leg this way. It'll like make it easier. Like hold her hand real tight. So she's like, put your hand here. I'm just like, I feel like I'm in the danger zone here. Because all of a sudden I cut this baby. This baby's just out in my hands. And she was just like, give it to your wife and tell her what gender it is. And I'm like, it's a girl. And my wife's chest. That was my experience. I caught that kid. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
So she said, put your hand here. I said, I don't. And it was funny.
That's what got me in trouble.
My wife started like the first place. She had been like, if they ask you if you want to deliver the baby, I want you to like be focused on me. So like, don't like, or if they ask you want to cut the cord, don't be focused on me. And like, if you really want to do that, like you can do it, but like, just, make sure that, because I'm going to be freaking out. So when this all happened, it happened so fast. And I was just like, it's great. But So anyway, that's how that kid came into the world. You get that?
My wife is your sandwich.
And all of it. So I ate the whole thing so I ate the whole thing in the car on the way home. So now I got this Jimmy John's bag that's in the car, and I'm just like, man, I almost missed this. I was like within 5 minutes of the baby, like it was that close. And I'm like, do I get rid of this Jimmy? Like, do I just burn the evidence? Like Jimmy John's is freaky fast.
So does this kid.
It's like freaky fast, freaky good, right? So I was like, it's freaky fast. So like really, like probably it was like on the way. It was like, I didn't go out of the way to get it. I was like, probably like it's like all in. This is 3 minutes, but I was within 5 minutes. So I was like, maybe I should just get rid of this Jimmy John's bag. So then once I actually attended the birth and I was there for all of it, and I was like, whatever. And she was like, I didn't feel a thing. I was like, no, I didn't need you. I wasn't like worried. I was just worried you were going to miss it. Once she was like, cool, that I was like, yeah, I guess I probably shouldn't have stuffed for Jimmy John's.
Well, dude, like, I mean, it was actually a good thing you did. Because if you would have stopped off at like Bass Pro, you would have you would have lost all track of time. Like, oh, it was like so distracting. Or wait, I'll be right there.
If I had gone into Menards, you know what Menards is?
Right.
Yeah. Oh man, I just like my wife will be calling me a Menards by us has no cell service in it. My wife will be calling me a Menards. It'll be 2 hours deep. It's like I was just thinking about like, do we need new air conditioning? Like, I think we might.
Oh, you're having another baby? I'll be right there.
So her water broke with like the last one when I was in a Home Depot.
Wait, what? Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh
So
my
her
gosh.
water broke with the last one. There's a Home Depot and a Goodwill next to each other. She went in the Goodwill, and I went in the Home Depot because I had to buy a toilet to install in our downstairs bathroom because we had just tiled the bathroom. So I bought a toilet to install. And she was like, yeah, because there needs to be a toilet in here because I'm not allowed to go upstairs for like 24 hours after the baby's born. So, baby could come at any point. So let's go put the toilet in. So I'm buying the toilet and she calls me and she's like, yeah, no, my water just broke in this Goodwill. And I'm like, okay, we got to get home. She's like, why? I'm like, because the tile still needs to be grouted before we install this toilet. So we
This seriously sounds.
And like install the whole toilet. Oh, 100%. We installed, finish the drywall, put in the toilet.
You were lying.
You're lying. While she's in labor, 100% we did it. She was like doing it with me. She was like, ah, yeah, we just got to grout this floor. She's like, it feels kind of good to grout this floor. I was like, you do you. We installed the toilet, grouted all the floor, and finished all the drywall. It still is not perfect. I still look at that drywall and I go, if Liam had just been a day later, this would have been much better. But yeah,
dude. Okay, so there's a lot here. First of all, I feel like we're in the middle of like a Jeff Foxworthy joke. So I went over to Home Depot for a toilet. She went to Goodwill. She calls me and the water breaks. What do I do? Yeah. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go home and finish this floor and put this toilet in because we can't 100%. Go to the bathroom. But dude, 100%. let me just say this though. Is your wife like she's a freaking champ, dude? Are you kidding me?
100%. 100%.
It's the lottery, man.
Oh yes.
Holy cow.
Oh yes.
No. I'm in labor, but I'm going to finish this. Are you serious?
Oh, 100%. So
there's no excuse for any of us.
She had just like some people have talked about this, like where like when you're in your late stage pregnancy, you get this like burst of energy to like do things. So when like the kid before, it was actually a joke that we tiled the floor in the downstairs bathroom because with the kid before, she had tiled all of the upstairs while she was like 8 months pregnant. So she was like, "Woo, the best time to tile is when I'm pregnant, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And she's like, "But really, this floor is kind of gross. We should tile over it." And I was like, "Okay." It's like the whole room is like not even 10 square feet. Like it is under the stairs. It's a little half bath. Like it's a 1-day job, right? So we were doing it, but Liam just came like 10 days early. So we were just like not ready. We were not, when you say like, people are like, I was not ready to be a dad. I was ready to be a dad. I just wasn't ready. Like the bathroom wasn't ready though.
Oh my God, dude. We're 22 minutes into this and I don't know if I've laughed this hard in a long time. This is like, these are crazy stories, man. Like, what's really funny though, is I've learned a lot of things from this podcast, about like parenting, relationships and all that. Here's what I've also learned. That sometimes the best information is not shared with my wife. So I'll tell you what I'm not going to do after this episode. I'm not going to go to my wife and be like, you'll never guess what this one wife did. She was pregnant with her third kid, went into labor, and then retiled the bathroom floor and installed the toilet.
These are the inside thoughts that you keep to yourself.
Oh my gosh, man.
The next time that she's complaining about something, she's like, well, I'll tell you about Jon Fogel.
She's a Jessica too?
She is a Jessica too. Didn't you know this?
I think we did.
When we were trying to schedule this podcast and you were like, stop scheduling podcasts on my wife Jessica's birthday, I was like, oh, my wife's name is Jessica too.
This is crazy, man. If only people knew like actually how much we had in common if they were a part of this conversation 20 minutes before we actually hit record is really nuts. But
it is wild.
Dude, there's so much there, man. So let me ask this question. Are you, and just be really honest. And I'll be very honest with you. Like, I should be better about what skill I'm going to talk to you about, but I'm just, it's not something that I've honed yet, but I'm really trying to hone it. And that is, my reaction to surprises that I don't like.
Oh,
Like, and so like, for instance, if someone were to be like, hey, I'm in Goodwill and I'm in labor right now.
yeah.
Be like, oh shit. Okay. I'm leaving all this shit here. Be standing outside. I'm going to pick you up and go. Like, you're just like, oh, no problem. I'll be right there. Let me get this toilet and we got to grout like, you're just so chill.
So yes and no. So I have this terrible tendency, and I think I know why I do this, like from like a research perspective, like the developmental psychology hat, right? I think many men, and I talk about this actually in my book on the chapter on emotions, which by the way, nobody talks to me about. It's so funny. People love to talk to me about chapters of my book. Almost nobody talks to me about the chapter on emotions. And that was the chapter that like ripped my soul out to write. But in the chapter on emotions, I talk about how men, we are told that it is acceptable to be emotional as long as that emotion is anger or frustration. And so all of our emotions express themselves as anger and frustration. So my wife will get hurt. She'll like stub her toe. So she'll go, ow, why did you do that? And really what I'm saying is like, I'm so sorry that happened. Oh, that sucks.
Right.
But it comes out as like, why would you make that mistake? Why would you walk that way? And I'm like mad because that's the only big feeling that I've allowed myself to have. And so I think that when I say like, how do I react to surprises? I think in my brain, things that are actually catastrophically like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. Somebody just got in a huge car accident, or like, which has happened, right? My wife got into a car accident because somebody tried to turn left in front of her. They were driving parallel on a street near our house, and he realized that he was supposed to turn right, and he just turned right into her. Like her car was just there. He tried to just dart over. I won't even tell you about how the insurance company tried to pass that off of my wife for quote driving in his blind spot.
Was it Liberty Mutual?
No, I don't even remember. Was it Allstate maybe?
I was gonna say, if it was Liberty Mutual, we have way too much in common. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but like trying to like, yeah, like stuff like that, just like bad stuff. When I got that phone call at the water park with my kids, and my wife I don't know if she was pregnant yet. I think she was pregnant. Or no, she was not quite pregnant yet. She was not pregnant, but she had at that point, like 14-month-old in the backseat. And this guy like almost destroys the totals the car and like almost they get hurt, but they're fine. I respond to that with like, oh, this is a real problem. And when a real problem happens, I get calm and I get like, we're going to solve this. This is no big deal. We're going to handle this. My problem is when a kid spills milk, just sends me to a 10. Like when my wife stubs her toe, I'm mad that she did that for some reason instead of being empathetic. And so I actually get non-emotional when crazy things happen. It's just small emotions so when she called me and she's like, I'm in labor. My response to that is literally just like, oh, okay, well, here are the next 5 things that we need to do. And we're not going to check out anything else. And I said to the kids were with me. I was like, guys, get on the cart. I don't want you to walk. We're moving out of the store now.
Business owners, I need your attention. If you've built a business and you've built an empire, but things at home aren't right, I need your ear. So if you're a business owning husband and a father with over $500,000 in business, and you've built a business, but you feel like your home is the thing that's paying the price, I've built something specifically for you. It's called the Dad Edge Base Camp. This is 6 weeks to install what we call the Brave operating system across marriage, fatherhood, business, vitality, and even joy. This is a kickstart to get you really, really focused on not only your business, but all things family and marriage related. It's one thing to have your business in order, but if your family is out of order, then let's face it, none of it is worth it. This is awesome. You guys will absolutely love this. No hype, just execution and focus. Apply over at thedadedge.com/mastermind. Business owners only, please. Back to the show. Okay, so question about this.
Yeah.
Real question. I think a lot of guys want what you have. And I don't know if it comes naturally or if it's something that you've honed in and really refined over time, but where does that skill set come from when you're in the heat of like a freaking tsunami, but yet you can be calm? And I'm not so worried about the spilled milk thing. That's a more common thing. I really want to dig into like how does Fogel stay calm when his wife is in labor and he's at Menards, or I'm sorry, Home Depot.
I know.
We gotta get his brands right.
Menards. If it was Menards,
It would be no cell service.
I wouldn't have found out. It's across the street actually.
You're like, oh, Goodwill just had another kid. No.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, how have you refined that?
Yeah, I don't actually know, to be honest. It's not like my mom actually does this too. And my theory is that so I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 11. So lots of people say, well, I have ADHD, and I'm not trying to like, yuck on their yum here, but if you tell me that you have ADHD and you found out when you were 28 because like it's hard for you to do the dishes, I'm like, I'm not sure that meets the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual definition of ADHD. It sounds like maybe you just were on TikTok, right? Like, so that like there's different degrees of this. But when somebody comes to me and they say, yeah, like I was on, and I've suffered the side effects of that. That's a whole separate thing. But I've suffered the side effects of being diagnosed early with ADHD. I was on ADHD meds, all that other stuff. One of the things about ADHD is that basically the reason why stimulants work to make us focus is because they're artificial epinephrine or adrenaline. So basically it raises your heart. So like what does Adderall do? What does Ritalin do? It just raises your heart rate and it raises it's synthetic adrenaline. That's why they call it speed, right? And so when I'm hit with real adrenaline, like crazy adrenaline, everything slows down for me and I get focused because that's just how my brain's wired. And my mom is that way too.
Interesting.
So my mom also, I mean, she was not diagnosed, but just everything that I know about her and the tendency for this to be a genetic thing too, genetic component. My mom has a lot of ADHD tendencies, and for good and for ill, like it's caused a lot of strife in our relationship. It means that neither me or my mom, we have a great relationship and we love each other and we talk about things from what credit card should she cancel or get or whatever, all the way to like deep stuff about her own upbringing and like great relationship with my mom. Have several times in the last several years gone 4 months without speaking to her or texting.
Really? Because of it?
Because if she's not in front of me and I'm not in front of her, neither of us thinks to do it. Okay. It's not a negative, right? Like it's like literally the thing in front of me is the most important thing. Like my kid could come in here with like, like bleeding all over the floor. And it would be hard for me to tear myself away from you to like handle that because I'm so focused. I'm so fixated. And so in that way, there's a lot of positives.
Right.
My mom was a nursing supervisor, which meant that she basically ran the whole hospital. And she said when things got so crazy, like somebody called a bomb threat or something, like she would just lock in and just be cold. But she was also a professor and she couldn't grade papers. Like she just would go months and months without grading papers. People would be like, well, what did I get in your class that I stopped taking a month and a half ago? Oh, I don't know. And then never grade your paper. I think you passed. Yeah. Is it going to deeply affect your life if you didn't pass? Yeah, you passed then. Right. Like that. So that was like, I think that's part of it is it's just like the neurochemistry for me. Now I don't know if I was constantly taking ADHD meds, if I would have the same experience. I'll tell you, when I do take Adderall, I did an experiment where I took Adderall for 6 months, like a year ago. And I was like such an amazing dad, like so present, so calm about everything. I was like, never got frustrated, got all my work done all the time, was on top of everything. The problem is in just 6 months, I had to raise the dose 3 times. And then I said, at some point, this is not like, am I going to do this for, basically I came to the realization, like, am I going to do this for 40 years? And the answer is probably not. So getting off it when it's bigger, it's harder. So
Yeah.
so it's hard. It's like, let's just call this the experiment that it was. And I still talk to my psych guy, and he has a prescription for me, and he tells me, hey, if you can't do your taxes because it's just too mind numbing for you, taking one on your prescription with oversight, not a problem. So that's, I think, actually how, this is a longer conversation, but I think that's part of it, is learning to lean into who I am, and like learning to lean into the strengths of that. And that's why I stay calm. But it is also why I go rage mode when my kid spills their milk, because I was working on something else or thinking about something else, and they just disrupted that. And that's like really hard for me.
I want to reflect on something here real quick, because, while that can be something that doesn't serve us, it's also something that has tremendously served you. And I think it's something, it's a lesson that we can take. So, I think I've had almost 40 Navy SEALs, special op, Green Beret, guys, men of service on the podcast. And what I can tell you, Jon, is that what you're describing is something that these special forces guys, these elite warriors, go to training to learn. Is like how to, and so the way that they describe it is they teach us to slow down when everything is going fast.
Yes.
It's the slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So like literally, like they're trained when chaos is brewing, is happening, they can slow down the scenery and see everything. And perhaps that is exactly what you're describing, but maybe it's been more something that maybe ADHD medication, but it's been something that you've been aware of, that you've been able to hone, which is, I think, really remarkable.
I have a crazy story about this, actually.
Let's hear it.
Want to hear my crazy story? So, this is a little context. I started the high school bowling team at my high school. Bowling was allegedly, I've never actually confirmed this, illegal in my town that I grew up.
Where do you live?
I grew up in Evanston, Illinois. Okay, so this is it's first suburb north of Chicago, and at one point bowling was illegal for sure.
Okay, so did someone get killed in a bowling tournament, and we had to like get rid of it for?
Evanston was one of the first places in the country to ban alcohol.
Okay,
and so bowling alleys was not a sport in like the 1920s. You only went to a bowling alley to drink,
right?
So they banned bowling because it was essentially just like a speakeasy. So there were no bowling alleys, and this is true. There were no bowling alleys in my entire town. I went to, like, my high school had 4,000 people. Like, this is not a small town.
Yeah, it's big.
This is a big town. There were no bowling alleys in the whole town. Not one. So I went to my athletic director and I said, hey, it's a crazy idea. Let's start a bowling team, because there's no girls or boys bowling team right now. So you don't have to deal with the Title IX stuff. You can start both teams simultaneously. And I got a couple of guys who are like my buddies who can bowl. We bowl, like, we'll be fine. We'll be serviceable. There'll probably be more people. And actually, every day I go to the bowling alley up like in Morton Grove, which is like 45 minutes, 30 minutes away. I go, the entire place is filled with the security guards from high school. I said, if you put out a call to say, we'll give you a little scratch, I guarantee there's probably 5-10 security guards that would come forward to be our coaches. And he's like, he's like, this is an interesting idea. He goes, you know what else I like about it is that kids with disabilities and stuff like they can still bowl. He goes, I like this. So he goes, I'm going to give you the funding to do it. And so we start the bowling team, and I have lots of wacky stories about that. But I was the one who started the bowling team at my high school. So after high school, my wife bowled too. She took it up because her boyfriend bowled, and so we're high school sweethearts. So she learned how to bowl. So then after high school and college, I didn't bowl at all for years and years and years. I mean, just like, it's one of these things that, like, if you have kids, you're just doing stuff. It's just like, when are you going to do it? Like, I just didn't do it. And I started working at the church that I work at now. And I had this lady who's really into bowling, who sits in the front row every single week. And she said, Pastor Jon, I'd love to go bowling with you sometime. And I go, Rita, I'd love to go bowling with you too. Why not? You know, I meet people all over the place to have counseling sessions. I meet her at the bowling alley. So I go to bowling with her, and I have not bowled in, at this point, 7 years. Like, literally, this is not a joke. I had my bag. I opened my bag. My bowling ball was split in half because it had gotten cold. It had gotten cold and then reheated and split in half. So then I'm like, well, good thing I have two in here so I can use the other one. I try to open the front zipper of my bag, and the front zipper of my bag is rusted shut. So I have to break the bag open to get my shoes out. Larry, my best game of bowling ever up to that point was bowled in high school competitive bowling. Was like I think it was like a 256, which is roughly like not hitting two strikes.
Right? I mean, that's like 56 points. I'm sorry, it's like 200 points more than my average. So that's pretty good. So
like
keep going.
Right. So at that point I was like, okay. But I go, I don't know what I'm gonna be able to do today. Right. I'm thinking like, I'm just don't throw, and for the whole time it's like, don't throw it in the gutter, John. Don't throw it in the gutter. First ball I throw, boom, hits like a hammer, strike. She goes, you're pretty good. I got, yeah. Broken clocks are right twice a day. Let's see what we do with the next one. By the way, I was an hour and a half late for this meeting because I forgot about it. She had been waiting at the bowling hour for an hour and a half. So I'm already like stressed to the nines about this. So I'm like, don't throw in the gutter, don't throw in the gutter. And she's already like bowled 3 games. So she's like, I'm like pretty slow. I'm going to be slow. Throw the second ball. So my adrenaline's through the roof when I walk into the room because I'm already feeling like total garbage. I made this lady wait for me for an hour. Throw the second ball. Boom. Hits a strike. Throw the third one. It's a little light. Not going to strike. Well, it does. Just carries a pin. By the 7th frame, the entire bowling alley had shut down to watch. I did throw 12 strikes. I threw 12 shots. I threw 12 shots. I threw a 300 game.
What?
I can't tell you why. I can only tell you the factors that led up to it, which was that I was stressed out of my mind walking into the bowling alley. And by the time you get 7 deep, you're stressed out of your mind because you're doing it. And I threw 12 shots the entire day. I threw 12 shots in 7 years, and all of them were strikes. I don't know how. I could never repeat this again. I was like trying to get state scholarships. I was trying to get like so much stuff in my life would have been better if I could have done this 8 years before. But I have a plaque up on my wall in my office that she made me of the day that Pastor John came and threw 12 strikes. And I almost never bowled again after that. I was like, I don't think I want to ever bowl again after this. But then she had me come back like 6 months later, and I think I threw like a 115. Like,
oh my God, dude. You know, it's so funny, man. We just saw the movie F1.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have not seen it, but I like the trailers.
To be honest, man, it's probably in my top 10 now of all-time favorite films. Just because,
I'm gonna watch it.
First of all, like, I do like Brad Pitt as an actor. I think his movies are good. I like to watch his movies. Yep. But I love the character development that he had in that movie, along with like what he was up against, and the cast was great. The action was awesome. But there's this part in the movie where he's freaking pissed out of his mind. And then he goes to race his race. And of course he horrifically like wrecks and almost kills himself. But one of the things that he isn't communicating with his people, and they're like, hey, in the movie his name is Sonny. He's like, Sonny, are you there, Sonny? And the head guy is like, who's known him for like 30 years. He's like, oh no. He's like, this is not good. He's driving angry. This is not good. He can't think straight if he's angry. And sure enough, he plows like right into like one of the walls and goes into the hospital. But like,
yeah,
there's very few people, John, that can execute when their anger or their stress is at a high. And
I don't know.
The fact that you can do that is pretty damn remarkable, man.
I hope so. Well, that's how I wrote the book in 12 weeks too, right? So
which great segue into the book.
Is kind of how we do everything. Yeah. But I think that the hard part is that so little of life is that. So much of life is me experiencing like the little ways in which this negatively affects me. In the like, how hard is it for me to get assignments in? But way more than that, it's like I can have discipline and I can have structure and I can kind of get around that. But there's no discipline or structure for like, you have a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
There's no discipline or structure for like, I'm not going to, like, you have to actually retrain your brain to not yell at your kids. And that has been like, it's funny because you think like, oh, well, clearly this guy who like under pressure can throw a perfect game in bowling or like do this, do other things over here. Like, when his wife's giving birth, he can like calmly install a toilet. Like you'd think like, oh, well, that person clearly is never going to yell at their kids over like, because they won't put their shoes on, except like, no, like totally different part of my brain. And it took me years of so many intentional like choices in those moments to be the parent that I want to be. And I would say like still probably 30% of the time I'm not. Like 30% of the time I screw up. But if I can the research says if you can do it 60% or 51%, even more times than not, like you're really setting yourself up. And I see so many people out in public and I'm like, oh man, their life would be so much better if they could just master their own reactivity to their kids. And that's not because I'm not reactive to my kids. It's because I am reactive to my kids, because I know what that is, right? And I know how different that feels than, kind of what else I do.
No, I totally get that, man. So you talk about different parts of the brain, which by the way, guys, just so you know, so John's book is Punish Free Parenting. Unless my kid spells milk, then I'm going to rage. No, I'm kidding. The brain-based way to raise kids without raising your voice. So,
Yeah.
This came out January 28th, 2025. But I'll tell you, that, I truly, I understand where you're coming from. And by the way, I don't know what my ratio is. In fact, I think that guys are really, really aware. I think usually anyway, we're so aware of our shortcomings that a lot of times we don't even really realize the good. So like, I don't know what my ratio is, but like when my kids come and tell me, they're like, man, you are such a good dad. And I'm like, why do you feel that way? Like, that's kind of like my first reaction to that.
Yeah.
Or like, I came into my office this morning and I came into this, which is, I love spending time with you. This is from my 10-year-old. And he put it right here next to my camera so I could see it. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I know this sounds crazy, but maybe I'm speaking for a lot of dudes out there. But like, when I see that, I'm like, you do? Like, I'm kind of hard on you. And I know sometimes like you probably don't feel all that connected to me. And I do a lot of course correction with you. And yes, we have some fun. Yes, we play some games, but like, man, like, I kind of feel like a bit of a tyrant in your life a lot.
Some of the time.
And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So can you explain that perspective?
Yeah.
Why do we feel that way as dads? Like, why can't we actually like be like, hey, I'm actually doing this stuff over here pretty good?
I think on the first piece, I would say, why do our kids receive that in the way that they do? Right. So like before we get into like that, like I think so many people, here's like my really easy, simple nugget takeaway is one, kids don't have the same negativity biases as adults. So our negativity bias is that, if somebody says something negative to you, they have to say 10 positive things before you outweigh that negative. Our kids don't have that same. They actually want to see us in the best light possible, which is the opposite of how so many people have been trained to think about their kids. Or kids are manipulative, or kids are, they're trying to give you a hard time, or they're trying to do this or that or the other. Like, actually, kids are almost never trying to give you a hard time. Like, they're having a hard time and you are witnessing it. It's actually not about you at all.
Makes so much sense.
Right. Because think about it just from a purely evolutionary standpoint, right? Like, you are the difference between their survival and death. Like, that's it, right? Like, if you stop feeding them and stop taking care of them, even at 10, right? How long before he's, cooked? Like, not long. And kids know this and they want us to like them. Like, intrinsically, like biologically, they want us to like them. And so they're looking constantly for any sign that we like them. So that's one. Second thing is, I know that you're a person who knows how to repair. And one of the things I talk about in the book is this phenomenon that we often have. We're talking about movies today, Superbad, F1. Every rom-com that I've ever watched has the exact same plot. I mean, they're obviously different. Some of them are about a time loop and some of them are this, but they have the exact same plot structure. And the plot structure goes like this. You get context around these people, and that context means that there is a looming problem. Then they get together and things are good for a while until the problem is eventually brought to light. Turns out that this whole time he's writing an article about how to lose a girl or how to get any girl, and she's writing an article on how to lose a guy in 10 days or whatever the premise is. And then at the end, they reconnect. And that's what makes you feel the feelings when you watch the rom-com or anything. A lot of people don't realize that the reason why they all have the same thing, the same plot format, is because by making that couple break up at roughly an hour and 5 minutes into the movie, you can put a stopwatch on it, by the way. It's like within an hour, hour 5, hour 6, hour 3, almost every time. Hour 5, hour 6, hour 3 into the movie, that couple's going to break up. And the reason that they're going to break up is because in your brain, you know that a relationship that has recovered from a seemingly impossible scenario is forever. Now I look at my kids and I go, oh, every time that I mess up and I do the reconciliation thing and I do the apologizing thing and I do that was not my best. Actually, I'm building the relationship deeper than if I hadn't messed up in the first place. Now, does that mean that you should go out and just constantly mess up on purpose so that you can have all these opportunities to apologize? No, because you're going to mess up, I promise, all on your own with no intentionality, right? Spend the time that you can be regulated being regulated. But the times when you're not, you can see that as an opportunity for the failure relationship paradox. And by the way, this is true in all sorts of things. This is true in marketing, right? Sometimes I'll put, I shouldn't say this, but sometimes I'll like put a broken link into an email and somebody will say like, oh, this link's broken. It doesn't work. And I go, oh, here's the link for you. Sorry about that. And they go like, oh, isn't it so nice? This guy who I only know from the internet took the time to actually send me the real link. If I just sent them the link, they probably don't care. But because I took that time to say like, oh, no, actually, I do care about you. Here's how I can make this right. People love, we love when we reconcile, and our kids love when we reconcile. So number one, your kid is generally viewing you in a positive light, not negative. Number two, every time we make up with them, every time that we fix that relationship, the relationship doesn't just fix itself, it actually gets stronger. And that relationship that's been built through rupture and repair, the cycle we call rupture and repair, those relationships are the strongest. And that's, I think where we find ourselves in the midst of that. So that's why from the kid's perspective. From the dad's perspective, I do think that we've been conditioned to see mostly our flaws. And I'll tell you the exact exercise that I have dads do when this is the case. And it sometimes it can be a very harrowing experience. Every single time you have an interaction with your kid, you write down that interaction somewhere, like in your phone, whatever. And at the end of the day, you see how many of those reactions and interactions were positive and how many of them were negative. I'm not saying, well, but they did all this stuff today that were negative. Okay, then do it tomorrow and try again. What people will realize very quickly is we say no a lot to our kids, probably more than we need to. We could probably use better tools to say no in a more creative way. And two, wow, I actually have a lot more positive experiences with my kids than I think I do. And I think that, the real danger is the parent who's so distracted that they're not having any reaction and relationship with their kids. Yeah. I'm much more worried about the dad who's buried in his phone than I am the dad who sometimes gets mad. Like that I can fix. The I'm buried in my phone is much harder.
Let me make a comment on that because it's something that I just took notice of this past weekend. So everybody in our family has phones except for my 10-year-old. My 12-year-old has one, but he barely uses it. It's kind of really interesting. We got him one. we've got the Bark app on it. He doesn't have internet access or anything like that. Which
Sure.
probably is the saving grace of that. But anyway, like let's just call it, 4 out of 6 of us have phones, right? And we were on the couch on a Saturday night, and this is not really like us as a family, like where we all sit around on our phones. We kind of don't really do that. In fact, usually someone will call somebody out for doing that. Like, hey, like be here, right? But I noticed
I love that.
all of us were sitting on the couch and we were kind of interacting and we were on our phones. And I look up, I put my phone down and I'm like looking at my 18-year-old, my 19-year-old, my wife on their phone. And then I took notice to my 10-year-old. And my 10-year-old was just kind of like looking around the room like, what do I do? And it was almost like, for a moment, like I was like, what does this feel like for him? And this is what came to my mind. He probably doesn't feel like one of the cool kids at the lunch table. Like, no, man, you go over there. We're into this over here. We're doing this thing over here and you're over there. Almost like exclusion.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like how many times has he maybe felt this? And I was like, hey man, come over here, sit on dad's lap. And so like we sat there, we talked and cuddled up and that kind of thing. But I was sitting there thinking like, God bless, man, Larry. How many times have you missed this one? You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I think you're right. I think it's that dissociation or like, I'm not even paying attention to you. I'm into this. So this is more important than you are. I think that could be probably way more harmful.
Well, it does two things, right? So the first thing that I think about is there's this experiment called the still face experiment. I talk about it in my course. The still face experiment was where they took like 1-year-old babies and they put them in a high chair. And then their mom was there and they were just playing with the mom. And you can actually Google this. You can look up videos of the still face experiment. And the mom is just supposed to be, oh yeah, doing the whole interaction, acting like Miss Rachel. And you just say, oh yeah, this is great. Oh, what's that you found? And then when the researcher like turns on a light somewhere or something, I don't know how they're told, but they're just supposed to go blank. And the kid starts by trying to be like, get them back involved. They're like, hey, keep playing with me. And then after a while, they start to distress and like really cry hard, be like, pay attention to me. It's like worse than the mom walking out of the room is the mom like totally ghosting with the still face. And then the kids dissociate in some cases.
Wow.
Like, and then so the idea of this was like how much of the communication is not verbal, how much,
right.
How much is this was called attunement. It's research into attunement. How attuned are you to your kid? But this was all conducted long before cell phones. And now I think the attunement problem is, seems crazy to stare at your kid and just go, but when you're just like this and your kid's just watching you, isn't that the same thing?
Yeah. Can I challenge this a little bit?
Yeah.
Could it almost be more disruptive or even more neglectful to the kid? Because at least to some degree you're looking at them. But if they're looking at you, not even looking back, and you're looking at something else, could that be even more?
I think it can be both, right? I think it can be both. I think the kids will very quickly seek to justify why you're not responding. And they'll say, oh, they're not responding because they're on their little device, right? But then that sends an entirely different message. And that's kind of my part 2, right? Which is second chapter, third chapter in my book. The third chapter in my book is about modeling, not like becoming a model on the runway. But It's about the basic premise is we have known basically one of the key people in developmental psychology is this guy named Albert Bandura. And the thing that he discovered, among other things, he's the father of many different psychological theories. But the thing that he discovered that I talk about in the book is how basically telling a child what to do has very little effect on what they do. Showing them what to do has like all of the effect. And so what he did was he took these kids and he brought them, this is a great one for your listeners. He brought them into a room and there was a bunch of different groups of kids. And the first group walked into a room full of toys and they just played with the toys. They got no observational input. They didn't see anybody play with the toys before them, whatever. Second group saw all of the caregivers play in the room before they got to play. And these adults were playing with this doll. It was called the Bobo doll. It's like a kind of a goofy, creepy looking clown doll. But
I remember
they
that.
saw them play with the Bobo doll, and they were really nice. They were treating it like a baby, and they were, if the Bobo doll fell down, they picked it up. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, it's going to be okay. And then the third group watched people go in and just pummel this thing, just beat it up, throw it across the room, cuss at it, yell at it. Then when they let the kids in the room, the kids that saw nothing played normally. The kids that saw caring and compassionate care with the Bobo doll, all were caring compassionate towards the Bobo doll. All the kids who saw aggression towards the Bobo doll immediately just repeated it. They just played that game. And what was crazy is that they also divided the study up further between boys and girls, both men and women being the ones to be observed, and also the boys and girls that were observing them, the little girls and boys. And it was not, they expected for like, oh, the caring and compassionate females to be modeled by the little girls. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. All of the kids followed the actions of the males. So if you had a female who was being caring and compassionate, but a male who was being aggressive, both the little girls and boys were aggressive. If you had a male who was being caring and compassionate, but a female who was being dismissive or aggressive, both the girls and boys followed the male. So basically, the actions, it's what it really proved was that most learning is observational. It's actually not what we say. This whole like do as I say, not as I do thing that parents like to do, and be honest, it's a lot of dads like to do. Like, well, I don't want you to grow up to be like me. Sorry, your kid's going to grow up to be just like you, most likely. Not in every case. Sometimes kids go to the opposite, right? They have a truly negative relationship with a dad, or the dad's completely absent. They may choose to go the opposite way. But generally speaking, kids are going to follow the example of their parents, whether they want to or not. And so when men say, well, I want to raise kids who have, abundance mindset, or I don't want to raise kids who are just yellers like I am, or I don't want to raise kids who lack discipline. I lack discipline, and I don't want to raise kids who lack discipline. So I'm going to come down hard on my kids. Way, way better just have discipline yourself. Just become calm yourself. Become non-reactive yourself. Show them. They'll do it. You don't actually have to like fix your kids. You fix yourself, your kids are fine. And that was like a huge moment in my parenting journey. Was like, oh, I can tell my kids to be kind and compassionate and not yell. But unless I show them, that's not going to work.
That makes total sense, man. Thank you for sharing that. What's really interesting is the way I was raised. The females in my I would say immediate family and somewhat extended, like my mom, her sister, my grandmother on the maternal side, were all pretty spicy, kind of mean, like pulled no punches, like loved to use those levers of guilt and
shame,
kind of a little bit shallow shame, all that stuff, right? A lot of narcissism. And then there were the men in my family, which was my uncle and most importantly, my grandfather. My grandfather was the opposite of that. My grandfather was very loving. My grandfather was very compassionate. He was tough. He was a blue collar worker, but you had no doubt if that man loved you or not. Like, he was very loving. And here's the interesting thing. I was more inspired, and I never really actually maybe even understood it until you just explained everything you just explained. But like, I remember even being like little, I'm talking like a little guy, and I'm like, that's what I want to be like. That's what I want to be like, my grandpa, right? And like my grandfather's been passed away for almost 30 years, and I still, like, my wife tells me all the time, you were just like your grandfather, and I just love it. But I think like, even if you have like some pretty bad influences in your life, I think if you've got that good male role model who exemplifies that example, that's a really powerful thing.
And it doesn't always have to be men. It's just in that experiment, it kind of just demonstrated how it's a naturally gravitating thing. It is really that just having those securely attached people And I think that a lot of secure attachment these days is interrupted by technology. And I think that it causes a lot of, like, I say it's never been harder to be a parent. I say that all the time. I think it's also never been harder to be a kid. And like, kids are just faced with things that, like, this is a whole separate other conversation, but kids can basically handle, they're anti-fragile. They can handle anything that you throw at them. Like, the most traumatic things that would like just ruin an adult forever, like, will not ruin a kid. Like, they can handle it. They can cope. That does not mean that we should take advantage of that. They still have very underdeveloped brains. They react to things very big, but they are so resilient just naturally. And what is crazy to me in the midst of like learning about how resilient kids are is kind of understanding how, if you have technology well, I should say it this way. The reason that they're resilient is because they can play through their problems. And so what we have had is all these examples throughout history, things that are the most horrific, like the kids who are in ghettos during the Holocaust, who are playing through their problems. They're literally playing like cops and robbers, but they're playing SS Garden Juice. Like that was the level. And the parents are just like, we're just going to let you work this out. We're not going to like stop you from playing these games. So they play those games and then they process through it. What I'm most worried about, and the reason why I think it's hard to be a kid, is I think that our kids, because of the existence of smartphones and tablets and everything else, like, they're not playing through their problems anymore. And that like really has the propensity. And then we're not even seeing that they're not, because we're so distracted. And the reason that they're so obsessed with their tablet is not only because the thing is designed to capture their brain by very smart people, but also because, as you just said, every single time they're around adults and there's a lull in the conversation, the adults model, hey, pull out your phone. And I think that this is a circular thing, and I worry. To be
honest, too. I never heard it put like that, but yeah, you're right. Kids solve problems through play, but they distract through technology, and so do we. You know, I agree with you. That was really good, man. I do want to move to one other segment before we wrap, and this is an important one because it's right in line with your title. And I know before we hit record, you were like, you know, the title, like, kind of unbeknownst, like, it kind of like, some parents are probably like, punishment free. What? Like, I want, like, I don't know if we want to punish our kids, but I think we feel like it's a necessary evil that we have to. So like, what is your stance on this? What can we learn?
Yeah. So the whole first chapter of the book is just called The Problem with Punishment. And then the rest of the book is what we do instead. Right. And there's the fourth chapter is on consequences. So I'm not saying that there's like no place to let your kid experience the harm that they've caused, or even allow them to experience harm themselves. Right. The problem with punishment is, when we punish kids to teach them a lesson, we're turning off the part of their brain that learns in those moments. So if a kid plays through their problems, part of what's happening there neurologically is that if you put them into an fMRI scanner, which is this huge machine that basically just like shows what part of your brain is lighting up when different things happen, and you had them play while that kid's in the fMRI scanner, the part of their brain that is experiencing learning and compassion and empathy, these are all things that light up. This is the same part of the brain that lights up when you're having a really great conversation with somebody as an adult. The same part of your brain that lights up when you're really involved in going into flow state with your, an artist or something. The problem is, the same part of that is, none of those parts of the brain light up when you punish somebody. When you yell at somebody, when you take away privileges from somebody, all of that stuff, like basically anything that you can, send them to their room, ground them, put them in timeout. All of those things activate the threat response system in our brain. And the threat response system in our brain, while very good at keeping us alive, is very bad at learning lessons. And so I am a punishment-free parent, not because I have some sort of moral objection to punishment. Like that is, I've come to have a moral objection to punishment, but that is only because if punishment didn't work, everyone would have a moral objection to it. What I learned was I developed a rejection for punishment when I looked at the psychological data and found that it didn't work. And it doesn't work on kids. It doesn't work on adults. We lock people up, throw away the key. I'm not saying that I have the solution to our incarceration woes as a country. I can tell you that how excessively you punish someone after they commit a crime, right? If you really throw the book at them, that is no indication that they are going to not commit that crime again. The only way that you can stop somebody from committing a crime for a second time is to build positive relationships in their life and education. So people commit fewer crimes when they learn things than when they have good relationships. But when they think that they're going to go to jail for 50 years, does not affect whether they commit crimes or not. So punishment, like my aversion to punishment just came through the pure understanding that like so much of my life was built on a lie, which was that I could punish myself into becoming the person that I wanted to be, and that I could punish my kids into turning into the people that they wanted to be or that I want them to be. And I very clearly learned through like being willing to ask that question, is that true? And the answer seemingly was no. And then all the examples that I had of times when my parents really punished me for something, like every time it was the relationship that actually did the teaching and the heavy lifting. It was not the punishment. Never did I never got that bad grade again because like I got grounded for a month and I didn't want to be grounded for a month again. Like that's not how our brains work. We are trying to survive in the moment. And a lot of people say, well, John, I would never hit my kids or I would never, spank my kids. But I mean, come on, giving them a timeout or, yelling at them a little bit or whatever, like that's obviously different. And I go, again, you stick them in an fMRI machine and they experience physical pain and the anterior cingulate cortex lights up, which is this part basically outside of your brain in the back. Anterior cingulate cortex lights up. Isolate them from a group of people or tell them nobody's going to pay attention to you right now until you fix your attitude. Anterior cingulate cortex also lights up. Their brain experiences social punishment, social isolation, the same way as physical pain. So over and over, I kept trying to find a reason to punish my kids. Like, okay, well, what if they were doing this thing or what if they were doing that thing? And time again, it became clear, like, oh, punishment is never actually effective. There are lots of other parenting tools that are effective, like holding consistent boundaries, like modeling the behaviors that we want to see out of our kids, like letting them experience the consequences of their actions. Lots of those are very effective. Talking to them through their emotions, right? Effective. But just like throw the book at them, doesn't actually work. And man, it was so freeing to get to that point because I never had to be the person I didn't want to be. Like,
it's really interesting, man. Just I've got more. Do you have more time?
Yeah.
Okay, I have more questions about this. But I want to just share a really quick, like 2-minute story. When I was younger in middle school, I had a lot of trouble. It was probably like right around I hit like 5th grade. I started having really big problems with school. Not behavioral, grades, but it wasn't because I wasn't smart. It was I had a hard time processing information. Like I just learned very differently, right? Call it I don't know, ADHD, ADD. I have no clue what I had, but I didn't do well in school. And it wasn't until I was probably a junior in high school that I actually learned how I learn, which I know it sounds crazy, but like I can't look at the teacher while they're teaching. I literally have to like put my head down, put my hand over my face like this, take notes as they talk. And then as they take notes as they talk, I'm thinking, reflecting, writing. And it was just I was just like, I can actually remember this stuff, learning it like this. But when I look around, I get distracted. But my mom would get so angry at me for not, like, she called me lazy. And you can't convince your parents, like, I swear I'm not being lazy. I don't know how to do this. Right. But she didn't believe that. And I would just get punished and punished. And it became a joke with all my friends. They're like, are you ever not grounded? Can you ever go out? Like, I was grounded from TV. I was grounded from friends, and I was grounded from Nintendo. The only thing I could do was my homework, which I didn't know how to do. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, this is horrible. Like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's just like, and I agree. Like, and I think my mom was probably doing the best she could. She's probably like, I have no clue what to do. But I think, like, hey, let me get you in a tutoring group, or let me get you a tutor, or like, let's get you some extra help so you understand this stuff. There was none of that. But like, so, but it didn't solve the problem is basically what I'm saying. But like, let me ask this question, because I think every parent is wondering this. What if my kid continues to do the same offense over and over and over again? I don't punish them. They do suffer their own natural consequences, but they still keep doing it. What do we do then?
Yeah. So second chapter of the book, we're just going through it piece by piece, right? Second chapter of the book is called Get Curious, Not Furious. Whenever anybody says, well, my kid just does this thing over and over and they can't stop, what did you need your mom to do? You needed her to go, why? That's all you
Good
need.
question. Yeah, that's actually a really good question.
Like, all you needed was somebody to interrupt the cycle of retribution of, you did the bad thing, I'm going to do it to you. You're really going to feel it this time. Oh, that didn't work. Great. Then you're really going to feel it this time. Like, to a person who only has a hammer, and all of us, I will say that, or the overwhelming majority of us, have only seen punishment as the only deterrent for bad behavior, right? We see it in our military industrial complex. We see it in our, like the only way that we solve problems is with like a hammer, right? We're just pound people into submission. Like, that's just what we do. Like that, as soon as you break yourself of that mindset, then you immediately start to ask the underlying question, which is, why is this person doing this thing? Like, why? And once you start to get at that, you realize, like, oh, they can't focus. They can't concentrate. Well, what tools do we need to implement that will help them concentrate or help them focus? But many of us never stop to do that. We just are so convinced or so indoctrinated that the only way to fix this is by making them hate their life so they don't do that thing again, that we just kind of go at that over and over. And so if you have a kid who's constantly hitting over and over and over and you can't make them stop, we need to start asking the question, like, what is going on that makes you feel like this is okay? Not in the, like, how dare you explain yourself, right? But in a truly, like, hey, I saw that your first instinct was to hit. Like, what's going on with that? And then all of a sudden you realize that, one, most of the parents who are doing this are talking about toddlers, and their toddlers are just terrible at following instructions all the time. And as you know, they age out of that. You're not going to be there forever. Some of your life is rough for that. So I'm making literally like 24 courses just for toddlers right now, because life is rough. And that's why I actually have the emotional regulation game book that I made. It's because if you don't have something to redirect them to, it's really hard. But for older kids, you have to get to the underlying problem. I call it, the analogy that I give in the book is the Dr. House on the TV show House, where he's constantly, love that show, right? So with the thing that House does that nobody else does is that House will let the person get sicker so that he can figure out what's the underlying problem. Everybody else is trying to do symptom management and House is trying to cure, right? Like, that's in a nutshell. And usually the problem, in order to cure, you have to let some things go and not always intervene. And it's amazing how once you start to operate that way of just like, I'm just going to be curious about this behavior rather than just assume that my kid's being bad on purpose, how quickly you can start to like develop this rapport, and then your problems just dissipate, because now you're approaching it with like, oh, my kid's hitting, but they only do it you start to take notes mentally. You're in, what's going on here? Okay, Why is my kid only hit at 7 a.m.? Oh, because they're hungry. Like, and it sounds crazy, but like literally that's the example that I use in my book. I was having meltdowns with my 3-year-old every single day at 7. Wouldn't put on his shoes, wouldn't put on his pants or nothing. Because he had been up for an hour and a half. He used to wake up at like 5:30. He was so hungry. And I was waiting for his brothers to get up before I made breakfast. And it was like, oh, as soon as I saw the underlying problem, I never had meltdowns with this kid again. But if you only see the problem as the symptom, I would have just punished him into the floor. And he wasn't controlling what he could do. He had no control in those moments.
You know what's really interesting, and I'm going to put a link for this show in the show notes as well. I just had a guy by the name of Dr. Ross Green on who wrote a book kind of similar to this. You know who that is?
Yeah. Of course I know, The Explosive Child.
Yeah.
So do better if they can.
They will. So like he talked, it's pretty much a lot like what you're saying. So he used your kid won't brush his teeth or her teeth, right? And I was like, and he's like, why do you think your kid doesn't want to brush teeth? I was like, because kids don't want to brush teeth. He's like, and he, you know how Ross is. He's like, do you think that's really, have you asked him? And I'm like, well, no. He's like, well, how do you know? You know, he's like, you should ask him. He's like, I have a story about this. And I was like, what's the story? And he's like, well, he's like, I had a dad who was doing this with his 6-year-old daughter and he couldn't get her to brush her teeth for life of him. And he just got really frustrated. And then he finally went to her and it did exactly what you did. Say, hey, I noticed that you hit. What's up with that, right? But his observation was, hey, I noticed that you don't seem to be really excited about brushing your teeth, and there's a lot of times that you don't. So, can you tell me about that? And all the while, this dad was like, she's 6 years old. She hates brushing teeth. She's just like any other 6-year-old. It's a pain, right? Turns out, she can't stand the feeling of water running down her chin. Hates it. Like with a passion, has some like sensory issues and hates the water. And she's like, I actually hate the water running down my chin. It drives me, like in her 6-year-old way, she's like, it drives me crazy.
Right. He's
like, is that it? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, can I share my concerns? And he's like, well, if you don't brush your teeth regularly, you're going to have to have cavities. Then you have to go, what happens then? And she's like, I go to the dentist. And then what happens then? And she's playing it out. Right.
Right.
And then he's like, so, you know, what if we were able to brush your teeth, but we were able to prevent any water from going down your chin? Would that be okay? And she's like, I would do it then. He's like, okay, well, let's practice that. And he did that. Sure enough, that's when Dr. House comes in, right? It's not the symptom, it's the problem. But that kind of stuff is so true. I do want to switch over to your new book, which is Set My Feelings Free.
Yes.
Because you actually give situational things in this.
Yeah. So Set My Feelings Free is actually not a book for parents. It's a book for kids. And the idea here is that the thing that has gotten me so popular on social media is, or I don't know if I'm so popular, but the most popular videos I make on social media are emotional regulation games. And these are games that are actually secretly like regulation tools, like from therapy. So these are things that therapists might have adults do, like, you know, name all of the colors that you can see around the room. And what we know is that from, again, neuroscience and therapy and all of these things, that practice really grounds people and they will stop having an anxiety or a panic attack in order to name those colors. And then they can kind of come back online. Well, what I did with my kids was when I was learning all of this stuff, again, usually applied to adults, I was like, I wonder if this will work on like a 3-year-old. They know how to name colors. Let's try it. And so I had my kids start to do this, and it was like I could bypass every tantrum, like instantly, because the same thing that was happening in their brain is happening in an adult's brain when the adult is spiraling out of control. So then I was like, well, how do I teach kids this? Because kids love games. They don't want to just be told, name your colors, right? So I made up the color game, which is, well, I wonder if we can find anything red. Kids love playing games like that, right? But what they don't know is that game is actually forcing their mind into, or their brain into, certain exercises that are designed to regulate them. So I have so many of these. I have like 30 of these, but I put 5 of the best ones
Yeah, give us a couple more. Give us a couple.
So that one's a great one.
Yeah.
Another one is parents love to tell their kids to take a deep breath. Kids don't know what that means. So instead you have them like, and this is a very common one, I didn't make this up, but you have them smell a rose. So you say, here's my rose. What does it smell like? And when you take a deep breath in through your nose, if you weren't sick like me, you take a deep breath in through your nose, it activates your vagal nerve, your vagus nerve. It's the 10th cranial nerve, which is it's from polyvagal theory. The idea is that when your cranial nerve gets activated, it flips on your parasympathetic nervous system. So by simply breathing in and then breathing out, you activate that 10th cranial nerve, and then you regulate, because your body would never do that in a true life or death situation. And so it kind of locks you in. Another one is just like having a dance party, expending excess energy. A lot of kids have never been more stagnant, and a ton of issues come from a kid will build up frustration when they're trying to draw something, but they don't have the tool of like releasing that frustration, expending the energy that they've built up. And so if you just kind of go crazy and do like a crazy dance party for 10 seconds, like kid will regulate down if that's their problem. And so I even have one in here that about nightmares. So like lots of kids get nightmares. And so one of the cures that we have for nightmares is that what's happening with a nightmare is your brain is using its imagination system, and it's being co-opted by your fear system, which is why nightmares are so much worse for kids, because their imagination system is so much more potent. So their fear system is basically saying, oh, what's going to happen in the dark? Like I can come up with terrifying things. But if you use visualization of forcing your imagination to do something else, like present you with calming information, you can just eliminate nightmares. Like,
can you explain that? Like, what do you mean? Like, so like take us in like in the heat of the moment of something like that.
Right. So there's kind of a fun way to do it and just kind of a general way. But the fun way is your kid says, I'm scared. And you say, what are you scared of? Curiosity, right? They say, I'm scared of this skeleton, this giant skeleton that's at the end of the street. And you go, okay, how can we make the skeleton silly? What if it was being chased by a pack of dogs and they were all chewing it up? And it was so upset because it was being chewed up by all the dogs. And then one of the dogs took the head and buried it in the yard. And the kid's imagining this, and now they've taken that fearful thing and they've made it into a funny thing, and they'll just go to sleep in like 10 seconds. Like literally. Like, so like within 2 minutes, your kid would be back asleep. The kind of more the way that I present in the book, instead of the funny way, is just like, just imagine that you are in your favorite place in the world. Like imagine that you are on a pirate ship instead of in your bed with a creepy monster coming up underneath you, right? And a lot of parents are like, no, I'm just going to look for the monsters. No, you're applying logic to fear. That doesn't work. You have to apply imagination to fear, because imagination's the problem. So a lot of these are just reframing what parents think the problem is. Like, oh, my kid is afraid because they're thinking critically about darkness, or that they think that there's a monster under their bed. They don't actually think that. They're imagining that there's a monster under their bed. If you check under the bed for the monster, you've just validated the fear. Instead, you say, oh, how do we make that monster go away? What if we put him into a plastic bag and attach him to a parachute and made him fly up into the sky or whatever? And
oh my gosh,
it's stuff like that.
You know, what's really funny about this is we can all go back to like, John, how old are you?
Oh, 34.
Okay. So I've got some age on you. I'm 50. I remember when Michael Jackson's Thriller came out. Yeah. And I remember like the big hype about it. I was 7, and like Michael Jackson was like, I don't even think I knew who the president of the United States was, but I knew who Michael Jackson was, right? Every kid did in like 1983. And so I watched that, and dude, when he like turned to that girl and he's like all cat monster werewolf looking thing, and I freaking flipped a lid, dude. I was freaked out of my mind, and I had nightmares for like weeks after that. But here's the funny thing. I would have nightmares about that, wake up screaming, parents come in. But the thing was exactly what you're saying. Even my 7-year-old brain, I knew that was imaginary. and I knew I was afraid of it. And deep, 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 deep down, I knew that there wasn't anything to be afraid of, but I couldn't convince myself of that on a conscious level of why that wasn't real. You know what I mean?
You have to imagine it as something not to be afraid of.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
That works in a different part of your brain.
Where does it work?
Well,
so the amygdala is fear, right?
Right. So it's your neocortex, your imagination. Okay. Yeah, it's like your amygdala is your fear sensor, and it's void of logic, right? Because logic is too slow. So fear has to be fast so that we don't die. We can't be pausing to sort out whether we should or shouldn't be afraid. Fear comes online faster than you actually are. So if you saw like a spider drop out of your peripheral vision, you would be afraid before you knew that you had seen it.
Yeah.
Like before your mind was like, oh, why am I afraid? Oh, because I saw that. Like, that's not.
I'm actually, part of my body is cringing right now, just imagining this spider like coming down like the side of my screen right now. Like literally, like I'm like, it's like, but I also know it's not real. But yeah, it's like, but if you were to tell me, hey man, I want you to imagine like taking that thing and just flicking it across the room and just watch it just fly, like I'd be like, oh, it's not a big deal.
Right.
But yes, I
exactly.
get it.
And that's what you got to do.
Dude, I love this, man. I could talk to you all day. Well, I want to invite, number one, all the Alliance guys. John's going to come and speak. We're going to have that. But number two, man, like, I love everything you're doing. I've always been a big fan of you, but tell people where they can find this book and where they can find you for more.
Yeah. So Set My Feelings Free and Punishment Free Parenting are both available everywhere where books are sold. So if you want to go to a local bookshop and ask them to order it, or you can just, cave and buy it on Amazon or whatever. I try and make it as easy as possible for people to get it. You can also get the audiobook, which I read myself. So if you like that, you can go and grab that. And you can find me on social media at Whole Parent or on my website, wholeparentacademy.com.
We're going to make it really easy for you guys. Go to thedadedge.com/1460. That'll make it easy for them. thedadedge.com/1460. Fogel, I love you, man. This was so cool. That was an hour and a half that just flew by, and not to mention the 20, 30 minutes we spent before this podcast talking, but this was awesome, dude.
Yep. I had to ignore a call from my advisor, but hopefully I don't get kicked out of my PhD program now.
We'll let you get back to that call, man. I appreciate you.